We are
The Girls Who Gab.
I'm Kassie.
And I'm Bayley. And if you are listening to this or watching this, that means that baby number 2 is here. And that's super exciting. But also a little weird because I can't actually give you updates because this is pre-recorded. So updates will be coming later. Kassie will be kind of giving an update of everything on the baby and how baby and mama are doing and the new family of 4. So this is my last episode for now. And then I'll come back later whenever that happens.
Not to worry, though. We will still have episodes. I will be having guest hosts almost every episode until Bayley makes her way back to us. So this is the beginning of the next segment of Girls Who Gab for now.
Yay!
Let's continue with the episode. Welcome to this latest podcast episode for Girls Who Gab. This is so different than what I'm used to. As the beginning of the episode stated, the co-host Bayley is off on maternity leave this week. And so because I have a new guest host for today, we're also not doing a video platform episode. It's just going to be photos. So you're only going to be able to listen, and I do suggest listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts in this case. But I want to introduce Annalise. She's also a podcast host of her own. So I want to give her a minute to introduce herself and her podcast and everything like that. So Annalise, go ahead.
Aloha, Kassie. How are you? I'm happy.
Good.
Very happy to be with you, connecting with everybody over there. I indeed have a podcast. The name is The Happy Spark Designer. I do that on Anchor, and mainly it's about personal development. And I invite you all to listen to that, and of course, start your own journey. My background, just to be brief, because it's more about you guys out there more than us. So it's my background is in humanitarian work, but I have also been a lot in arts and psychology as well. So this is how I found my niche, what I really feel passionate about. And I'm originally from Peru, but I've been in the States for many years. So this is my second home, and now I'm in Hawaii. I live here. So Thank you very much, Kassie.
Yeah. Hawaii is beautiful. I've only been as a kid, and I would love to go back, but for now I'm just in California.
Yeah, Cali is great. I lived there for many years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad to have you here. And all of Annalise's podcast information, everything is linked in the show notes. So if you're interested, you should go check out her podcast, go give it a follow, and review it too, because reviewing on Apple Podcasts is always very useful. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about self-expression and what that means and like how we express ourselves. So the first thing that I wanted to do was define self-expression, because I think even though in my head I knew what it meant, I still kind of had a hard time wrapping my head around like just one answer to what self-expression is. So according to Webster Dictionary, self-expression is defined as the expression of one's feelings, thoughts, ideas, especially in writing, art, music, and dance. So that's the technical definition of what self-expression is. Did you have anything to add to what you view self-expression as, Annalise?
Probably I would think of something personal. I think it goes a little bit beyond that. But how do you know how to express if you don't know yourself? I'm so passionate about personal development, so I'm always into where to start. And so I think it would be expressing what you have within to the world.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely like that version. I think that kind of understanding of it is where my head was at too when I was trying to pinpoint like, well, what exactly is it? I think that's why it's kind of hard sometimes if you don't look up the technical definition, because it's just like so broad.
It is very broad.
So I wanted to start off with kind of asking us to both discuss how we express ourselves and if there's more of a physical manifestation of that versus an emotional manifestation of that, and how those two intertwine together as well. Go right ahead.
Yeah, sounds great.
So for me, I think that my biggest self-expression is in what I do online. I think that's why I found myself here on this type of podcast that I host, because Bayley and our podcast is much more like discussion based and kind of just like talking about each other and like random parts of our lives. So I think that that's one way that I really express myself, is just through discussion and talking. And I have my own YouTube channel that I've started more general, but as time goes on, it's more and more book related. For those of you who obviously aren't watching this episode because it's on audio, I have 3 bookshelves behind me that are very full. Like, I love books, so that has like kind of become the way that I express myself the most, is through online content. But I also really love makeup and clothes. The pandemic has been very weird because obviously you don't have a lot to get ready for. And so it's weird to not have a reason to like put on a cute outfit and stuff. But yeah, I tend to express myself through clothing and makeup as well. What about you?
I think I would like to make a little bit of a tweak into your question, if
Sure.
yours is good.
Yeah.
The way I would like to approach your question is more into how others might feel empowered to do this self-expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, speaking your truth in the moment, like let's see, instead of looking back on a conversation that happened and wishing, oh, I should have said this honestly because this is how I feel, I was thinking. Be more authentic. That's authenticity, when you really tell your truth. So that's a way of expressing yourself and being authentic, committing to what you believe, instead of thinking so much about, oh, the person might be not agreeing with me. So this is one of the things. But of course, with kindness, you don't need to be so like blunt. You can be honest, but with kindness. I always emphasize that. Going back to the same point, the way you can express yourself also is first defining yourself, right? Explain who you are. So I have read in different literature that the self is something that you create. So the self-expression process comes when you are creating yourself. You are kind of playing with different features of yourself, if you could say. I'm just trying to explain in a simple way. And that you are creating yourself in that sense that you're not limiting for your space or your reality into explore new experiences, into talents that you have never used, interests, passions, opportunities, these kind of things. And something that definitely you would like to hear is that also self-expression is directly connected with creative techniques such as arts. Probably you do this, you write in your journal.
Definitely.
And then, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I like to do that as well. You know, it's just you reflect a lot. You just think about, like, you explore yourself. That's a way, it's a very simple way of doing it. Acquiring self-knowledge, right? Again, knowing who you are, taking that space, that break, so you definitely assess your life and your feelings. How do you feel about something specific? And definitely you have to pursue wants and passions. Like, what are your passions in life? So
Mhm.
through your passions, which means it's hobbies and dreams, right? This
Right.
is some of the things you were mentioning.
Right.
So yeah, this is the way I think it will be helpful for people to understand or to go through the what is the self-expression process, or how do you do it, right?
Definitely. Definitely. It starts from somewhere before you get to the part that is showing it, which is what I was talking about. But there's that beginning part that's way more personal and not necessarily outward expression. It's the internal side of things.
Yeah. I mean, both
That makes sense.
both things are needed to be said and shared so
Mhm.
people understand what it is, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, I also express myself into many things like dancing. I love dancing.
Mhm.
I love painting. I love to do what you do, podcasting too. So connecting with people, right?
Right, right, right.
Yeah, and many
Yeah,
others, of course.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely think it's an important part to discuss how those two are intertwined. Okay, so I want to go into like a section of like tips on how to find your own personal self-expression. Any advice for people who might feel either lost or stuck or bored? I don't know, a whole range of ways. And I think that it's relevant to currently what we're all going through, especially, but in general too, just recognizing that also it might change through time.
Mhm.
Like, for example, when I was younger and in high school and everything, one of my biggest ways that I love to express myself was through various forms of performance. So I was a dancer, I was in musical theater, I was in choir, I was, doing all of these things, and I love all of those still today. As a watcher, I like to watch performances, and I found that just like I was talking before, you know, I I do basically perform online, and it's much more of myself, not so much taking on a character because I'm making videos of like as myself, but it has changed throughout time as that's still how I express myself, even though it doesn't look the same as what it did when I had the opportunities to do stuff on a stage. Um, so yeah, I wanted to kind of ask for you to talk about some tips that you might have for people who are looking, who feel lost in that sense.
I think when it comes to me, I used to study about arts psychotherapy,
Mhm.
which opens space for me to play. Right? That's what
Yeah.
it comes playing. So when you play and you're yourself, then it's when everything comes out naturally.
Mhm.
So probably something useful for to do for the public is, let's see, there is when you explore your inner child. I'll give you like some examples, very simple things that you could do at home. You have a lot of time at home. We all. So,
Definitely.
for example, drawing yourself as a kid on a piece of paper. And what you can do is add some images and words that describe what are your needs as you were a child. And so also you can include supportive, um, your parents over there, the supportive part, right? So you start realizing or remembering certain things when you were a kid, and you will find a lot of joy in that space, and you will probably explore a little bit of your hobbies and your passions, because most of the time I hear people, oh, when I was a kid I really wanted to do this, I really wanted to do that.
Mhm.
And then you just go and you start like growing and you just become an adult, and you have forgotten completely what makes you spark, what makes you
Mhm.
happy. And so it's just, we just get so much in the routine that is forgotten. And it's like you don't give yourself the permission to really be a kid again. And
Mhm.
it's not being childish, it's just let your inner child to be present, to have a more joyful life.
Mhm.
Another thing that comes to me is, for example, you can decorate a bag or a box with images. And again, words as well.
Mhm.
So what you can do is, like, for example, outside the box might represent your qualities, and then like the external qualities that you have that you always use, for example, for work or for general in life, right? And inside you can put your inner qualities. And when you explore your inner qualities, it's a bit more of a exploration there, but you will start remembering a little bit who you were when you were a kid. And that's part of our essence. I emphasize so much that because that will give you a lot of hints about your life, about what makes you happy overall.
Mhm.
The last thing, which I love poetry, it would be like, for example, grab from a poem or from a quote, something meaningful to you. You can write it down. You can, let's see, put it on a sticker on your computer. You can put it even in your own mirror. And so you see it every day, right? And that empowers you, and that makes you feel inspired of what else, what else, what is next day, what I would do to just be playful with myself and to
Mhm.
go through that process of self-expression.
Mhm. I think a lot of times we hear about like professional development, and there's a lot of focus on like work and career and success and what that looks like in a monetary way. And I think it's important that we keep in mind that like finding joy in just life is important too. And so something that came up while I was listening to your suggestions was the whole idea of like doing what you love in a work sense. And I think a lot of times we forget that we can also do what we love regardless of if we're getting paid for it. So even if we're not, making money by making this art piece or something, whatever your self-expression happens to be, and the way that you like to express yourself, it doesn't necessarily have to have the end goal of being seen necessarily, let alone making money. So it doesn't, I think a lot of times we do put a lot of focus on like posting our stuff, whether it's posting our art or, making a TikTok or making videos. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like I've said multiple times now, I definitely take part in all of that stuff. But I think sometimes we would do really well to remember that like we can do our own expression for ourselves and not need the public acceptance of it either.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Thanks for sharing that too. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not only for the, of course, we both love to connect with people. We love to share,
Definitely.
empower people. But at the same time, it's also a process of doing for yourself only, right? It's like, oh, let's see, we are females, right? We love to do this thing with dresses, clothing, whatever. But how about you just dress for yourself and just have fun with yourself? Just pamper you.
Right.
Let's say you get some ice cream and you just get dressed fancy and you just enjoy yourself. As simple as that. People think that has to be so complicated, so elaborated. No, it's just simple things in life, little by little, day by day, that you can pamper yourself and just also feel like, yes, I'm being me. I'm enjoying myself.
And I definitely think that is a good point to like just drive on, because again, with the pandemic and everything, a lot of us are just stuck at home. Like I don't leave my
Yes.
house except to go grocery shopping. So like because of that, I definitely have felt frustrated in times when I'm like, I don't need to put on like real pants. I can just wear my PJs or my leggings all day long every day. And then I start to get in this cycle of like feeling frustrated that I don't have that reason to get dressed or to put makeup on or whatever. And I, like I said, I love makeup and I love clothes. So I think it has been really hard for me to remember that like I can just do it because I want to do it. Like I can get dressed and put on a nice dress even if I have nowhere to go, or put on my heels and walk around in the kitchen with them. Like that's enough sometimes. It's okay for it to be enough.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends on how do you feel, right? If you feel comfortable, but again, right, just simple things in life, and also like people around you, just appreciating just for a smile. Sometimes, like, smile to somebody just changes the completely day. So
Definitely. Yes, for sure. So before we move into the last part, which is I always share a quote and we can like discuss what the quote brings up for us. Do you have any last like questions or thoughts, anything left that we haven't gotten to in regards to self-expression?
well, I won't stop saying this again. Just I invite everybody to start their own personal journey of self-development. It is so important. I think that when you repress that part of you, it's not very positive. I think that this is what how do I see it? The need for self-expression is very important for our lives overall. So when we don't express ourselves, I think we kind of repress that important parts of who we are. So it usually causes struggle, sometimes emotional pain, sometimes frustration, even depression. I mean, I have read so many articles about it that what I'm trying to do here with you guys listening right now is that you realize the importance of this. This is not just just because they're saying that, then I need to believe it. No, it's very important. So I really invite you to start your own journey.
And that brings us perfectly into today's quote. Because the quote is by I missed the name of the person. I did not write it down, but the quote is self-expression is a vital part of understanding life and enjoying it to the full.
Wow, that's wonderful. That sounds, yeah,
Right?
very
It
deep.
like exactly where we've been this whole episode. It's so important, and I definitely can understand how we get lost in, I think our society doesn't prioritize self-expression. It doesn't prioritize just straight up human joy. We tend to focus on, again, like monetization of that joy. And if it's not bringing you, if you're not getting something out of it physically, such as money, then it's not worth it. And I think the thing is that we have to remember that the joy that it brings us is enough for it to be worth it. And it's just really important.
But I think it's not only, of course, the money part. Yeah, it is very obvious to see that often. But also, I think that society expects us to be the same. We are not. We are unique. We are unique in the way we are. And so you cannot, I always say this, you cannot ask a mouse to be a peacock, right? Completely different animals. How do you expect something so colorful and bright as a peacock to be a mouse that usually likes to be indoors, right? So it's a very simple and silly example, but I think that what I feel all the time is that society wants us to be like duplicates, copycats. And that's not healthy because we are different. We share commonalities. Of course, we are human beings, but we are very unique. So you might have some commonalities with me, but you have your own way of being. So if you start like copycatting other people and trying because there's no way you can actually be somebody else.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Which is wrong, actually. You should be yourself and finding first who you are, and then just be yourself fully. And celebrating that, mainly celebrating that. There's just so many beautiful people out there that I met constantly, be it online or presence, face to face.
Right.
And I see that, and they don't see it yet. And it's like, you don't need to copycat this other woman or this other man. You are unique and you are beautiful as you are. So just express it. Just be you. And stop thinking, right?
Definitely. We talk about that a lot on this podcast with when Bayley is here. We talk a lot about like the comparison game and how much it can get in your head, especially on social media, whether it's like comparing your numbers on some picture and views or whatever, or if you're just looking at pictures and you're feeling negatively about your body or something and comparing your body or comparing whatever it is, comparing the beautiful way that they took that photo versus how you can't seem to get the lighting right in the photo or whatever. It can be a scheme, a whole list of things that you compare, that we all tend to do this. And I think it's natural for us to compare. I think we are wired to do that, but I think it's important to recognize what we bring to the table too. I think we're just as important and just as like what we bring to the table is just as worthy as what somebody else does. We just need to find what we're bringing.
Definitely, yes.
Well, I think that is going to be the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Annalise, for joining us.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, it was so good. And we are doing another episode on Annalise's podcast, which is again linked down in the show notes. So Annalise, do you want to like hint at what the topic is that we're going to do on your podcast?
Of course, we are going to talk about self-esteem, and it's so related to self-expression.
Yes.
So everything about personal development, of course. So please join us too.
Definitely. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna say goodbye. So we always say cheers at the end of our episodes. So I'm gonna cheers, even though we can't see each other.
Cheers.
Cheers. And
Cheers.
that's the end.